Welcome back to Manhwa Heartbeats. Today, we'll be recapping a manhwa called Try Begging Me. Don't forget to subscribe, it helps us a lot. Enjoy. Our girl is the daughter of a sworn enemy, someone the Campton vampire wanted dead. She's not just that, though, she was also a cunning spy, always slipping through people's fingers like smoke, and now she's a fugitive, vanished from the eyes of anyone who might be looking for her. She's had many names over the years, each fitting a different role or mission, but right now, she's known as Sally Bristol. She's just an ordinary maid, at least on the surface, working for the man everyone fears, the Campton vampire, a creature who has long abandoned his humanity. The place she works in is no ordinary mansion. It's more like a graveyard filled with the ghosts and screams of those who dared to stand against the vampire, particularly the Blanchard Revolutionary Army. Their defeat here is marked in the air, in the walls, in the silence of those who remain. It's a place of terror, a place where no one would willingly go. Yet, she's here, moving through it as if it were any other house. Today, like most days, she heads down to the dark, cold dungeon to bring food to the prisoner, one of the few survivors of the Blanchard army. As she steps into the cell, he looks at her and calls her Grace. He always does that. But she calmly corrects him, telling him that she's going by Sally Bristol now. She doesn't get angry or upset, she's used to it by now. After all, her real identity has to remain hidden, even from him. She checks on him, asking if anything happened during the night, but he just shakes his head, indicating nothing out of the ordinary. She hands him a dose of morphine, telling him it should help with the pain, at least for a little while. She reminds him to drink some water and eat the food she's brought. He always looks so worn out, so tired, as if the weight of the world is pressing down on him, which it probably is. The prisoner, still nervous, asks her if the rescue team is coming soon. He's been waiting for them, clinging to the hope that they'll show up before it's too late. Sally reassures him, telling him that they should be coming, but there's something she needs to know before she leaves. She asks him if he's said anything to anyone, if he's let anything slip. His reaction is immediate, he shouts, insisting that he hasn't told anyone a thing. She watches him carefully and, satisfied, tells him that she believed him, but she had to make sure. It's important to be certain in a place like this. Before she leaves, she tries to calm him down, telling him he'll be able to move soon and reminding him that the rescue team doesn't fail. They always come through, even when things look bad. But despite her words, the prisoner can't seem to shake his fear. He mutters something under his breath, something about the Campton vampire being on his way, and how he's going to die. Sally doesn't respond to that, just nods, and leaves the cell, locking the door behind her. As Sally is finishing up her tasks for the day, the Campton vampire suddenly calls out to her. His voice is sharp, cutting through the silence like a knife. He asks her what she's doing there, and she explains that she just finished serving lunch to the prisoner and was picking up the laundry. It's a simple enough task, part of her daily routine, but there's something in his tone that makes her feel uneasy. He asks her if she's been doing all of this alone, and she replies honestly, telling him that she has. Mrs. Ethel, who used to help, left a month ago. It wasn't a surprise, no one lasts long in this place. But that's not the answer he's looking for. He presses her, his eyes narrowing as if trying to find a hidden meaning behind her words. She wonders to herself what he really wants to know, but she can't figure it out. Instead of pushing her further, he calls over one of the guards, demanding to know why Sally has been left alone with the prisoner. The guard, clearly nervous under the vampire's icy stare, stammers out a response. He explains that he was told not to leave Sally alone, because the prisoner could get aggressive, especially around a woman. It's dangerous for her, and he knows that. The vampire listens to this, nodding slowly. His expression is hard to read, but there's something dark and threatening in his eyes. He agrees that it's dangerous, Far too dangerous for someone like her to be left alone in the dungeon with a prisoner. He makes a cold promise to the guard, saying that he'll make sure the guard never forgets this mistake again, a threat that makes it clear he's planning something painful as punishment. Sally, seeing where this is headed, quickly steps in. She tells the vampire that it's her fault, that she came without permission and broke the rules. She offers to take the punishment herself, hoping that it will be enough to save the guard from whatever the vampire has in mind. Later, the Campton vampire pulls Sally aside. His voice is calmer now, but still serious. He tells her that from now on, she's to leave the meals outside the prisoner's cell instead of bringing them in. It's safer that way. Sally promises to do as he says, not wanting to push her luck. But then he adds something else, almost as an afterthought. He tells her that it's unlike her to be so careless, that she's usually much more cautious. Then, with a slight smirk, he says that her kindness is a problem sometimes. She's too kind, he says, to the point where it gets annoying. The Campton vampire is sitting in his office, imagining what it would be like to be intimate with Sally as she quietly cleans the room. She senses his gaze and feels uncomfortable, so she asks if it would be better if she left, thinking she might be interrupting him. Without looking up from his desk, he tells her to keep going, that she should do her job while he does his. As our protagonist continues cleaning, she can't help but notice that even though he called her annoying earlier, he's been staring at her persistently since she started. She tries to focus on her work, but his presence is hard to ignore. Just then, one of the guards walks in. He introduces himself as Campbell and informs the vampire that the transport truck will be arriving at 3 o'clock. Sally listens carefully, pretending to be absorbed in her cleaning. Inside, she feels a rush of satisfaction. All the time she spent enduring the filthy stares from the vampire and the guards is paying off. Now she knows when the truck is leaving, and she's one step closer to rescuing Bobby, the prisoner. The Campton vampire turns to the guard and says that since the departure isn't until 3 o'clock, there's still some time left. He smirks, saying he can't let the prisoner sit around bored, and heads off to torment him for a bit. Meanwhile, Sally hears whispers from others around the mansion. People often ask her why she stays, wondering if the pay is really that good. They question how she can manage working in such a place, especially around the torture chamber. Why not just leave and find another job? But Sally can't afford to leave. She's here for a reason. Later, as she continues with her cleaning, another guard comes in and announces that the transport truck has arrived. He tells the others they need to move quickly. One of the guards leans in toward the prisoner and warns him to keep his mouth shut until the end, taunting that he wouldn't last a day in the camp, or even an hour. The prisoner, Bobby, lifts his head and stares directly at Sally. Their eyes meet briefly, and in that moment, Sally knows she has to act soon. She can only complete her mission in the torment chamber, and the clock is ticking. The captain mentions how they've been running into each other a lot today. He asks if she's the one managing the torture chamber on her own now and tells her she's doing a great job. Sally's mission starts with Leon Winston. She notices that, even though he just finished torturing someone, he looks as relaxed as a man coming back from a brothel. She thanks him and says she'll get back to cleaning, but he grabs her and asks why she's avoiding his eyes. She insists she isn't, and he says, "Okay then, I'll look forward to your cooperation." Every time Leon touches her with his dirty hands, the smell of blood from that day fills her mind. In a flashback, a woman told her not to be afraid, that it was an unavoidable choice, and it was all for the sake of the new world. After her parents, who were revolutionaries, passed away, Sally's aunt kept suggesting they leave together. Her aunt would say that gold mining in the world has been a huge success, and it's more than enough to take care of Sally. If she goes with her aunt, she'll live much more comfortably than she does now. Her aunt can't understand why Sally won't agree. But Sally always apologizes. She could never bring herself to live in the world her aunt does, one where people step on the weak to rise higher and higher. They build wealth stained with blood, dress in fancy clothes, and eat like royalty. To Sally, that's the behavior of the greedy pigs of the monarchy. That's not the world her parents dreamed of. They envisioned a utopia that would be nourished by the blood of the revolutionaries and eventually bear fruit. Now, Sally is determined to fulfill the wishes of her late parents and their comrades by making sure the mission succeeds. It takes 5 hours by car to reach the camp from where she is. The transport truck just left, and the mail wagon will arrive soon, so there's plenty of time to deliver the letter to Peter. Once Peter checks the letters, he'll contact the branch, and the rescue team near the governor should be able to save Bobby before the transport truck reaches the city. Suddenly, the captain grabs her from behind and tells her she smells good. Sally instantly feels uneasy and thinks to herself that this is a bad sign. Sally thinks to herself that she doesn't know what will happen if she stays like this any longer. Should she shoot him here and now? The captain notices her shaking and asks why she's trembling so much, saying she's trembling like a leaf, which isn't like her at all. She can't take it anymore and starts to reach for her gun. Jimmy would understand. It's better to kill the perverted captain than be forced into something intimate with him. But then, the captain comments that her button needs to be sewn back on, or maybe she's trying to seduce him. Thinking quickly, Sally calls his name and says she's in need of money to pay for her mother's hospital bills soon. She tells him that if he wants something, she can do it for him. He lets go of her, and Sally thinks to herself that she was right. She knew he'd be repulsed by a woman who throws herself at him for a quick gain. The captain, still unsettled, tells her that saying such dirty things doesn't suit a good girl like her, and that she shouldn't say anything like that again. Sally reminds him that he once told her he was annoyed by her kindness, but he quickly tells her not to misunderstand. He wasn't annoyed by her kindness. In fact, he likes how she doesn't flinch at the sight of blood, which makes her more trustworthy than the rookie soldiers who can't even look at it without getting sick. He says she shouldn't be kind to those people, because they are sneaky. Sally, confused, asks why he's telling her all of this. The captain says it's because he wants her to stay in the torture chamber for a long time, to become a permanent part of it. Sally wonders what that means. The captain finishes by saying that if anyone ever hurts her, or makes her spill even a single drop of blood, it would break his heart. Sally thinks to herself that the vampire Campton is a bloodthirsty monster. Is he planning to suck her blood too? No, he wouldn't do that, because he hands her the money, and she thanks him for his concern. Thanks to him, she won't have to worry about the hospital bills anymore. But in her veins runs the filthy, materialistic blood he despises. She adds that he's very generous and kind and mentions that the mailman is about to arrive, so she'll take her leave. As she walks away, Sally thinks to herself that it was a real close call. Even the revolutionaries had enough respect not to bring women into the torture chamber. So why does Campton keep singling her out? A spy is supposed to stay unnoticed, never draw attention. That's why she's tried her best to blend in with the other maids. Where did it go wrong? The mailman, waiting, thinks it's almost time to leave. Sally rushes over and asks him to wait. He says she's a little late today, and she explains the captain called for her. He asks about her mother's tuberculosis, if she's getting better. Sally tells him yes. Her mother is supposed to be transferred to a bigger hospital soon, and she wanted to share the good news. The mailman says that's great, and he's sure everything will turn out fine, but warns her that it's not good to be late again. Of course, Sally knows why. Before he can say more, someone calls out to her, cutting him off. He takes his leave, reminding her not to be late next time. Sally asks the captain if he's heading out somewhere. He replies that yes, he has a prior engagement. She thinks to herself that, judging by his uniform, it doesn't seem like a personal appointment. She smiles and tells him to have a good day, but then he stops her and says there's something he's been meaning to ask. Sally wonders why he's so interested in a simple maid like her. He then asks if she's ever been to Abington Beach when she was younger. Our female lead lies on her bed, thinking it's been an incredibly tough day. Everywhere she goes, she runs into Winston, the captain of the Campton vampire, and on top of that, his stupid eyes follow her. In her mind, the protagonist recalls a flashback where a man tells her they need to infiltrate and gather information. She says he should do it, but she can't go to Winston Street. He explains that he can't ask his fiancée to do it either, but she knows why. He is the leader of the Blanchard Revolutionary Army. James, little Jimmy Blanchard Jr. The protagonist understands, but worries about her eyes. Her turquoise eyes aren't ordinary, and if she gets noticed even for a moment, it could be a problem. He tells her he loves her and knows this mission is dangerous for her. He hates sending her out there, but no one is better suited for the job. It's for the greater good. So he tells her to hang in there a little longer and not to worry. Their fellow revolutionaries will be his eyes, and if she ever gets into trouble, they will come running. If she succeeds in this mission, their trust in her will grow even stronger. She nods, but in her heart, the protagonist thinks that even a small mistake could bring everything crashing down. Now, she thinks she needs to contact Jimmy again. It's too dangerous for her to stay there much longer. Should she send the money she got from Winston today as military funds? Yes, she decides she'll stop by Madame Benoit's cafe on her way to the post office. It's been a while, and treating herself to a cafe au lait and a slice of cake sounds nice. In another flashback, a boy asks the protagonist if she knows what's better than a slice of cake, eating the whole cake by herself. Her brother Jonathan, who is 4 years older than her, was her loyal comrade and family, at least until he chose love over the Revolutionary Army. He says he's going to live for his family now. The protagonist asks what he means, reminding him that their family is the Revolutionary Army. Is he really going to abandon his lifelong comrades for someone else? Jonathan replies that using someone he loves like a pawn in a game isn't what family does. He can't raise his children the way their father did, and he won't treat his wife like their father treated their mother either. Frustrated, the protagonist asks what he's talking about and who could be as great as their father. Jonathan shouts that their father shoved their mother into a filthy den with someone he despised, calling them pigs and dogs. Sally insists it was just an infiltration mission, something she has to do as a revolutionary. Why is he acting like this? Jonathan tells her that one day she will understand why she has never been acknowledged, despite being the daughter of the man she admires so much. Sally hears footsteps outside her door. If he works here, he should know that all the maids in the annex have quit, which means he knows she's alone. Who is it? The footsteps stop. Is he standing in front of her door? Winston calls out for her to open the door. She wonders what he's doing here at this hour and how he knows she's awake. They say he has animal-like instincts, so she knows she needs to be more careful from now on. She opens the door for him, and he says hello. She greets him back and asks if he needs something. He replies that he needs her. He's done his job, so she should do hers. Confused, she asks what exactly he needs. He tells her that the cleaning isn't finished yet, he's talking about the office. She thinks to herself that he came all the way here in the middle of the night, just because he wasn't satisfied with the office cleaning. How impressive of him. She says she can't stand leaving things unfinished, and that she'll just change her clothes quickly and come down. She sees him still standing there and asks if there's a problem. He says he was curious about what kind of clothes she's changing into. She asks him to explain. He tells her she always wears this outfit when she's working, but now she says she needs to change clothes. He wonders if she's preparing something special for him. Sally realizes she was so busy that she forgot to change. She must have dozed off in her work clothes. She explains that she just wanted to take a break, so she thought she would tidy up her appearance. She also needs to gather her cleaning tools and get downstairs as quickly as she can. Winston says all right, he'll go down first, reminding her that it's late and she should hurry. She replies that she understands. As he leaves, she thinks to herself that if he notices even the slightest hint of something unusual, she'll need to slip a sleeping pill into his drink, and if things go south, she'll load her gun. A few hours ago, at the Grand Duchy of Aldrich, a guard tells a man that Captain Winston has arrived. The captain walks in, and His Grace comments that it seems Winston has been very busy. If a captain who is always punctual is late, he must be swamped with work. He jokes if Winston plans to approach the betrothal like a battle, reminding him that he doesn't remember agreeing to betroth his daughter to Campton's loyal military dog. The captain responds that it's something like that, thinking to himself that if his mother heard that, she'd have a fit. The guard then informs His Grace that Lady Rosalind has arrived. The captain turns, relieved to see his dreadfully boring fiancée, Lady Rosalind Aldrich, finally making her entrance. Later, the lady and the captain are in a car together. She says she doesn't like alcohol. Once, her father told her that the glass used to drink is just as important as the drink itself. He said even the finest alcohol loses its flavor in a poor glass. But if she doesn't enjoy the alcohol, then it doesn't matter what kind of glass it's in. The captain thinks to himself that he thought she was just a dull fiancée, but she's bolder than he expected. He sees a noble family drowning in debt and a house seeking a title. How pitiful to be caught in the middle of all that. He reassures her that she won't have to worry, she won't smell like alcohol tonight. She tells him he can call her Rosalind. He looks at her but can only see Sally's face. It's absurd. Even when high-class prostitutes flaunt their bodies, it just makes her yawn. So why does he feel aroused, just thinking about that maid who smells like blood? What is she doing to him? They arrive at the restaurant and take a seat. The waiter tells them their meal is served and wishes them a pleasant evening. Her Grace asks how work is going these days, hoping she isn't taking away his time to rest. He assures her that it's fine, thanks to her, he's actually catching his breath. She nods, saying she understands. It seems they still don't know each other very well. The captain thinks to himself that he doubts she's really asking, because she doesn't know about him. What would a noble lady find interesting about a mere military dog like him? The most he could share about his work is pulling out rebels' fingernails. Now that he thinks about it, what kind of sound did that woman make? Most men scream like women in that situation, but she was one tough woman. Her Grace then says she heard that, unlike their army, the rebels train women too. He thinks to himself that they do, but that training is just to become the commander's mistress. It's despicable, using women for their filthy purposes. He tells her it's not something a noble lady like her would want to hear about, since it's a matter of life and death. She apologizes, saying she wasn't thinking. She admits she doesn't really understand. What kind of world are the rebels dreaming of that they are willing to sacrifice their lives for it? The captain remembers when his father told him that his grandfather used to dream of a new world. Curious, he asks what he means. His father explains that this new world would have power come from wealth, not noble birth. His grandfather was a foolish man, who turned his back on the royal family, and gave up his title as account for that silly dream. But he reassures himself that he doesn't need to worry about that. He will make sure everything is set right. All that's left is to regain the title of Count. The waiter serves dessert, and the captain tells her it's hot, so she should please wait before eating. She replies that she's heard rumors about him being terrifying, but is much kinder than she expected. He remembers Sally's words. It's the second time today someone has called him kind, and he thinks about how he ruined her nails. She's a woman who talks about respect, but hides contempt in her eyes, like a fox pretending to be naive. The captain is curious about how far she will push him to see what's really behind that mask. He wonders if he lifts her skirt, even if she flinches at his touch, will she finally throw that mask away? Will she show him her true self? No, that's not enough. He wants to shove his gun inside her, and finally see her honest gaze. Just then, Sally walks into the captain's office. He notices she's later than expected and asks if she has something special for him. Our protagonist tells the captain to explain himself. He says he's just joking and asks if they should start their work. She wonders why he's doing this to her. She mentions that she was in a rush and forgot the sparkling water, so she'll step out to get it. She thinks to herself that she should prepare the sedative in advance, just in case. She tells him she'll be right back, but he insists there's no need and asks her to come closer. When she doesn't respond, he calls her back and asks if he didn't tell her to come here. Reluctantly, she walks up to him. He tells her to climb up, and she asks where. He points out that the lamp on the ceiling is too dirty. She thinks that if he wanted her to clean it, he should just say so. She tells him that dust will fall, so he should please wait on the sofa for a moment. He insists she just clean it and asks if cleaning without letting the dust fall is part of her skills. He helps her climb up and then asks her what she was going to do with the money he gave her. She replies that she was going to send it to her mom for hospital bills. He tells her to leave the money for a pair of stockings, pointing out that there's a hole in them. He starts ripping the stockings off, and she calls out to him. He asks if she wasn't going to throw them away anyway, saying he just saved her the trouble. Then he tells her to start cleaning. Sally starts cleaning and thinks to herself that he should eat the dust. He murmurs, "Just as I thought." She asks him what he said, and he replies that he's just talking to himself. He thinks that his imagination was right, her bloomers are white. She finishes cleaning the lamp and says she'll clean the carpet now. After she cleans it up, she tells him it's all done and asks if there's anything else he needs. The captain notices her hand is red, and when she looks, she sees blood. He tells her that once she takes care of this, she can go. As she goes to collect the ashtray, she suddenly sees him touching himself. Startled, she drops the ashtray. He asks what the matter is, saying she hasn't seen it before. She wonders if he showed it to her on purpose to see her reaction. She questions if this is really worth sacrificing for a greater good. Sally says if the captain desires, she can do anything, but thinks to herself that it's dangerous, and she needs to get out of there. She tells him she's finished cleaning and will be leaving now. He stands up and holds her from behind, saying he's becoming curious about what anything means. Winston asks Sally if she has ever been intimate before. Even though she doesn't answer, he pushes her for a response. He thinks to himself that it seems she's never done it before. If she had, she wouldn't be so terrified. Meanwhile, she curses him inwardly. He walks up to her and hands her a handkerchief, telling her she's bleeding. Then, to her shock, he licks the spot where she's bleeding. She thinks to herself that she's definitely in danger. He asks if she will scratch her lips for him next time, but she says no. He smirks, saying he can just bite it himself. When she covers his mouth, telling him not to, he licks her hand instead. He then bites her finger, lifts her up, and pins her to the chair. She starts to struggle to get up, and he comments on how fierce she is, asking if she has a brother or if she trained somewhere. She thinks to herself that she can't fight him. If she does, he might find out her true identity. But if she doesn't fight back, she'll have to endure all of this. He tells her not to worry, because he is the kind of person who gives rewards as much as he takes revenge. She thinks to herself that he despises women who spread their legs for money. So why is he doing this to her? She apologizes, saying she must have been out of her mind earlier, but he ignores her. She tries to explain that she has someone she's going to marry and doesn't want to betray him. He smiles and asks if she understands men at all or if she understands them too well. As she continues to beg him, he says her words only make him more excited. Then he raises her gown and finds a gun. He asks what that is. She tells herself to calm down and explains that her fiancé gave it to her. He questions why her fiancé would give her something forbidden, asking what kind of man he is, a thug from the alley. She insists that he is a good man, but she works in the torture room, so he went through a lot to keep her safe, because it's dangerous here. She knows the gun is forbidden, but before she can explain more, he cuts her off, asking if he is the one putting her in danger and if she was planning to shoot him too. Sally responds affirmatively, and Winston tells her that if she shoots him, she should know he won't go down easily. She replies that if she's going to die, she would rather do so standing by her beliefs. He mentions he doesn't actually plan to kill her but finds her cold. She thinks to herself that he seems willing to harm her yet expects her to be grateful, sarcastically wondering if he wants an apology for being so kind. He suggests it might be entertaining to provoke a reaction, pointing the gun at her chest. When she calls him out, he shifts it between her legs. In her mind, she realizes she needs to escape quickly. She starts to cry and tells him that if he fires her, she won't be able to pay for her mother's hospital bills. Desperate, she apologizes. He tells her to stop crying and just leave. Feeling like a mouse that has spotted a way out, she asks if he's firing her. He clarifies that he's not, but she needs to leave when he says so. He adds that he'll take her gun, and she agrees before rushing out. The captain tastes bitterness in his mouth. He lets her go, enjoying the thrill of the chase, yet it feels odd that she escapes so easily. He thinks about the bold girl with turquoise eyes and wonders why he can't stop thinking about her. Was Sally her real name, even with the fake brown hair? Those turquoise eyes seem genuine. He thinks of her as a clever fox, pretending to be simple. He wants to uncover what she's really hiding inside. Although she appears obedient, he senses there's something dangerous beneath the surface. If he can use that against her, he recalls the girl he once tortured. The girl begs him to let her go, calling him a filthy pig. He wonders if she would curse him like that. He thinks about whether their blood would smell the same and feels a dark urge rising within him. He finds it annoying when someone is too nice, and if he wants to punish someone, there should be a reason behind it. He thinks she needs to do something worse, to be a bad girl, so he can give her the scolding he believes she deserves. Sally rides her bicycle to a house and knocks on the door. A man opens it and greets her. She returns the greeting and asks if Peter is home. He tells her that Peter is stuck at the station, because the mail train is running late. No matter how much she wants to see him, she'll have to wait a bit. Sally thinks about his words. What does he mean by that? Does he think she likes Peter? She decides she should act a little colder from now on. It would be trouble if rumors start spreading to Jimmy, too. Sally picks up the phone and dials. The operator answers, saying it's a long-distance call and asks where she wants to be connected. She gives the address, Crawford 1499, Brayton, and adds that it's Blackburn from Halewood. The operator tells her to hold on for a moment. Sally thinks to herself that she hopes he picks up quickly, she has so much to say. When Jimmy answers, he says it's Crawford 1499 Brayton. She tells him she has a call from Blackburn from Halewood. Jimmy wonders if it's a withdrawal request, and since it's from Halewood, he remembers that's where Grace, Sally, is. He tells the operator to connect him. Sally quickly says she wants to go home. Her employer is acting strange. Jimmy replies that she already knows that much. She insists he's acting really strange. He can't believe she's whining like a child and asks what's going on. She insists she's not whining and reminds him of what she told him before he came here. He says he hasn't forgotten, but she hasn't been fired yet, and they still need her. Sally then explains that Winston tried to assault her. Jimmy asks what she means by assault, sounding serious. She adds that it's not just that. He caught her hiding a gun under her skirt and still didn't fire her. It's all too weird. Jimmy thinks it's odd that Winston would make a move on her. He usually hates women. Jimmy tells her that if she thinks about it, this could actually be a good sign. It means she is trusted. Sally shakes her head, saying it can't be trust. It's a sign that things are getting dangerous. Doesn't he understand? He responds that for now, she should stay at a friend's place, and he'll talk to the leaders and call her back. When he says stay at a friend's place, he really means she should wait at the Winsford safe house while they discuss the situation with the senior members. Sally wonders what her fiancé, Jimmy, is thinking right now. Is he worried about his finances? Is he coming up with a plan to rescue her from Winston's grasp? She remembers what Jimmy said about it being a good sign, but to her, it feels like neither of those things. She knows the captain is acting completely differently from what the Revolutionary Forces intel suggested. According to their information, Leon Winston's methods are disgustingly dirty, but he supposedly prefers his private affairs to be clean. So much so that you'd question if something is off. Yet he is treating her completely differently, and she can't predict his next move at all. She didn't expect that calling Jimmy would lead to her retreating right away. She just wanted to hear him ask if she was okay. An old woman on the bus interrupts her thoughts, asking if Sally would believe her if she said that 10 years ago, this place was all grassland with flocks of sheep grazing and orchards full of apples. The old woman mentions that her husband used to work here. Sally remembers hearing that the landlord cut down all the apple trees about 10 years ago and sold the land for a high price to an automotive parts company. The old lady continues, saying that after the factory was built, people started getting sick from working in those windowless rooms. As the protagonist gets closer to the big city, the gap between the rich and the poor becomes more apparent. Those with money seem to accumulate even more wealth, while those without struggle to get by. She notices a child on the street and decides to give him some money. The boy looks up at her and asks what she wants him to do with it. She smiles and tells him she's just giving it to him so he can buy something tasty. With a bright grin, he runs off. As she watches him go, the protagonist thinks that the revolution must succeed in creating a world where everyone is equal. It's essential. She remembers when she was younger, how her mother expressed her desire for her to grow up without anyone staring at her, wanting her to be safe and free. It's a bright, busy day on the street, with people moving everywhere, horses pulling carriages, and cars speeding by, stirring up dust. Inside one of these cars, 3 powerful men sit in silence, each lost in thought. Lieutenant Colonel Humphrey, the eldest with slicked back black hair, leans his chin on his hand, making a sly comment about Harris, hinting that he's probably looking worse for wear. The vampire beside him chuckles, adding that a little weight loss never hurt anyone, while Humphrey replies with a grin, suggesting that it likely won't help Harris live much longer given the recent ambush rumors. Our lead looks away, knowing this isn't just idle gossip. If there's even a chance of a spy under his command, he has to uncover the truth before his superiors do. His mind shifts to gathering reports, his gaze drifting to the street, only to spot Sally, dressed smartly in a dark brown suit and wide hat, hurrying through the crowd. His eyes widen, wondering what she's doing here. Humphrey breaks his concentration, teasing about what has his attention, and though the vampire answers with a dismissive no, Humphrey leans in with a reminder to be careful, especially around beautiful women. Humphrey brings up a story from their past about men who fell for a sly blonde, calling her Little Riddle. He remarks that she may be gone now, but he suggests they should capture her daughter and make an example of her. The vampire gives Humphrey a sharp look, but Humphrey keeps talking, oblivious, saying that only then can the vampire's father rest peacefully. Meanwhile, Little Riddle is seen as a mysterious woman with short, wavy blonde hair, bright green eyes, and striking red lips. She's smoking a fat brown cigar, and seems to have that same cunning smile as her daughter. No one knows her real name, her full appearance, or even her exact age. If her daughter's anything like her, she'd have those same sly, ruthless traits, and she'd do anything, even sell information, to get what she wants. The vampire silently vows that he'll catch her and take her down, piece by piece. Meanwhile, Sally hides out in a safe house, sitting across from a woman who's happily eating a slice of cake. The woman gushes about how it's the best thing she's tasted in years, wishing there was a shop like this near her home. She mentions they always order from this place when there's an event at the Winston estate. She looks at Sally and asks about Fred, wondering how he's doing. Sally hums a little and tells her Fred is doing well. The woman takes another bite, saying he's a bit clueless, which worries her sometimes, but she didn't have a choice with how stubborn his father is. Sally asks, "Oh, right. And how is he doing? Is he all right?" The woman sighs and nods, saying he's fine. Their elite squad is handling it, and he's staying safe at the house in Bilford. Sally asks to borrow the phone, wanting to hear his voice. The woman reminds her that long-distance calls aren't cheap, and tells her to keep it short. Sally settles into the sofa, picks up the phone, and dials a number she knows by heart. As she waits for the call to go through, she nervously twists the phone cord, silently hoping he'll answer. When the line connects, she speaks first, saying, "It's me. How are you feeling?" The voice on the other end replies, sounding warm, "I'm fine. Thanks for checking on me." Grace reassures Fred, saying of course she's worried, he's practically family, but when he calls her by her real name and questions if she's playing the role of that devil's mistress, she frowns, confused. He presses, asking if her orders came from above, and she quickly denies it, insisting it couldn't be true. Deep down, she knows she's lying. Then he asks if she's still in contact with Joe, and she freezes. Joe hasn't been mentioned since he was suspected of being a traitor, so why bring him up now? Fred urgently tells her to find Joe and stay away, then the line goes dead. She pales, realizing Fred wants her to leave immediately. Moments later, the phone rings again, and Jimmy is on the other end. She shouts his name, and he apologizes, explaining her withdrawal request is on hold and there's a new mission. She tries to stay calm, telling him to go on. Jimmy hesitates, then says she knows he loves her and that his feelings haven't changed. She reassures him, saying she'd give her life for the Revolutionary Army without hesitation. But then Jimmy quietly reveals that their leader sees her as more than a comrade, and they want to use that. The pencil she's holding snaps in her hand as she processes his words, stunned by the implication. Grace can't believe what Jimmy's telling her, but he pushes on, saying it's a rare chance and he's not asking her to go all the way. She feels her temper rising, frustrated that he's suggesting charm and manipulation. Jimmy keeps calm, telling her it's about using her wits. She's still fuming, asking him if he really thinks any of this is right. He just reminds her that reality doesn't always match their ideals. This work, he explains, is rough, dirty, and sometimes even humiliating. It demands sacrifices. Grace listens, feeling a chill, as he goes on to say others in the revolution have sacrificed even more. He adds that no matter what, she should remember he cares deeply and will always come for her if she ever faces real danger. Just then, her companion calls her name, noticing the strange look on Grace's face. Shaking it off, Grace says she needs to catch the last tram and quickly hangs up. Stepping outside, she heads down the street, but her mind is spinning. She can't shake the unease. Something doesn't feel right about the request Jimmy's made. The idea of a honey trap doesn't seem like a move the revolution would actually make. Did this order truly come from above? Or is something else going on here? As she walks, she grows wary of the people on the street, feeling suddenly exposed. She pulls her hat lower, adjusting her disguise, before approaching a shady-looking man nearby. The man glances at her and asks why she's there and if she wants to send money. Grace hesitates, recalling Jimmy's insistence that she keep the money. She thinks it over, unsure of how she's meant to use it. In the end, she decides to follow her own instincts, thinking, fine, I'll spend it however I want. Jimmy hands Grace a check, and she takes it, glancing up at the sky as her thoughts wander. She knows he probably expects her to be surprised by the money, but all she can think about is making sure her family has a good Easter, something worth far more to her than makeup, or any plan to charm a man. Later, she rides her green bike through the rain, heading to a familiar house. As she approaches, she wonders if her delivery has arrived yet. Laughing to herself, she realizes she's sweaty and needs to clean up soon. Then, as she reaches for the door handle, she notices a small gift hanging from it. Before she can process it, the Campton vampire appears out of nowhere. He casually points out a tear in her stocking, telling her she should keep enough money to buy herself a new pair. Grace looks away, feeling overwhelmed, thinking, please, stop doing this to me. The club buzzes with energy as women dressed in matching navy blue outfits sway to the music, their movements designed to catch the eye of the men lounging around. Ice-filled cups overflow with alcohol, and laughter fills the air. Humphrey leans back, resting his chin on his palm, a confident grin spreading across his face as he spots Kitty Hayes on stage with her striking black hair. He nudges Winston and makes a bold offer, suggesting that if Winston wants to spend some time with her, he can arrange it since he has a favor owed to him by the owner of the club. Winston, however, declines politely, stating he's not interested. Humphrey presses on, urging him to loosen up a bit, reminding him that a wild night doesn't always end in disaster. He tries to coax Winston into considering the idea, asking if he's even a little curious. Just then, a woman wearing a revealing outfit approaches their table, balancing a tray of drinks. Winston stands up, excusing himself to the restroom, while Humphrey nods, letting him go. As the woman settles into a chair, she keeps her head down, making it clear she's there to serve. Winston, back from the restroom, reaches for the remote sitting on the girl's tray and clicks it on. The girl thanks him, and he inquires about her love life. She shakes her head, indicating she's single, and he hands her a bill, surprised by her response. Meanwhile, the scene shifts as the two find themselves in a motel room, the atmosphere charged with tension. The girl fidgets, still processing the situation, questioning if this is really happening. With a playful grin, Winston encourages her to shed her clothes, but tells her to keep the stockings on. She reluctantly agrees, making a comment about how faith and love can't thrive in the murky waters of poverty. Winston's gaze stays locked on her as she undresses, his thoughts drifting to how easily trust can break under the weight of money. To him, she's just another woman, as insignificant as a maid, and he can feel the disdain radiating from her. He feels an odd sense of power in that contempt, enjoying the idea that even a woman who despises him might still find some value in him, no matter how twisted that connection might be. It's a world where desperation meets desire, and he knows that the smell of blood and disdain will linger in the air long after this night is over. Winston tells her that he won't be back for a few days, because of the government operation. As the person in charge, while he is gone, it's important for her to check if the hot water is working. She thinks this might be a bit too much to do, but what other choice does she have? The boiler in her quarters is broken, and on a chilly day like this, bathing in cold water would definitely make her sick. She hasn't even thought about her mission yet. She remembers that phone call where Winston mentioned seeing her as a woman and suggested she should take advantage of that. Submerging her head under the bubbles in the tub, she wonders if maybe she should just get herself fired. If she spreads rumors about an affair that reach Mrs. Winston, she thinks, knowing how Mrs. Winston is, she wouldn't put up with a scandal involving a maid. That would get her thrown out, and her mission would fail, not because she can't do it, but because she wouldn't be able to anymore. Yes, that sounds like a plan. She pulls her head back up and relaxes, tipping her head back to let the warm water soothe her muscles. She thinks about how she used to live in a house with a bathtub just like this one. But after her parents passed away, and her brother left, she had no choice but to give the house to another family involved with the revolutionaries since it belongs to the Revolutionary Army. Suddenly, she sits up straight in the tub, panic washing over her as a familiar voice breaks through her thoughts. The vampire asks if she is comfortable while leaning against the door frame with a cruel smirk on his face. She gasps, shouting, "Captain." He laughs and calls her Miss Sally Bristol, saying she is naughtier than Lady Aldrich and more aloof than the famous Kitty Hayes. He steps into the room, moving toward her while casually mentioning that she is in the bathtub, naked no less. He asks if Christmas has come early because if he had known, he would have come sooner instead of wasting time elsewhere. She ducks her head down in shame and apologizes, explaining that the water in the maid's quarters is freezing. She promises she won't do this again. He commands her to do it and starts taking off his suit jacket. He tells her that next time, she should let him know in advance, so he doesn't waste his time. She feels herself pale in the tub. He leans in closer and says that since Miss Bristol has been working so hard for him, he thought he might give her a special bath. He asks if she's interested. She reddens instantly and shakes her head no. He touches the scar on her cheek with his thumb and asks if she is using the medicine he gave her. She hesitantly calls him Captain and asks if he is drunk. He grins and says maybe, then asks how he seems to her. But more importantly, he asks what she went to Winsford for. Despite the cold water on her skin, she starts to sweat, thinking about whether he saw her there. He asks if her fiancé is there or something. She tells him that her fiancé isn't in Winsford. Then she asks him carefully if he plans to report to the police because of that gun. He responds that if he does, would she do anything to save her fiancé? She says no. He looks confused as she explains that her fiancé is getting punished because of her, and she would just let that happen. She looks away and says he is not a child and should be able to handle his own problems. He throws his head back and laughs, saying she is really bold and that he likes that. She blushes and looks at him without words. He nods, reaching into his suit jacket pocket to pull something out. She thinks about how her underwear will get soaked like that. He mentions that she bought them while thinking of him, and her mind races. Did he really buy them while thinking of her? That sounds like something only couples would say. He must be really drunk. She licks the sweet he bought for her, and his eyes stay fixed on her mouth. He thinks about how he was calm earlier, even after seeing blood, but now just one piece of candy has him feeling differently. He wonders if she will have that same look when she is holding on to him. He thinks about whether her insides are red and hot, just like her skin. Even if it means scalding her skin until it peels, he would still want to immerse her in it. He tells her that the water is getting colder and notices she is shivering. He offers to warm her up and asks if she is interested. She shakes her head and says she is not. He plays with a loose strand of hair by her face and wonders if her insides will cling to him the way her hair sticks to her skin. She turns away from him and asks if the captain can step out for a moment so she can get dressed quickly. He puts his hand into the tub, pretending it slipped, and says he was just curious about the taste of the candy. He smiles and suggests they will have to share it. Winston keeps his hand in the water and says they'll have to share the candy. He starts to get a little too playful under the water, and her eyes widen in surprise. She yells at him, asking what he is doing and telling him he shouldn't touch her like that. She acknowledges that using the captain's bathtub without permission was wrong, but that doesn't give him the right to treat her like this. He looks at her for a moment, surprised, then says, "Well, they are pink." Confused, she asks her. He clarifies that her cheeks are pink, and she tells him not to make assumptions. Then he pulls the bathtub plug and suggests they check. This makes her blush deeply. The water rushes out of the drain quickly, leaving behind only foam and her limbs covering herself from his gaze. He smiles down at her and asks if she wants to admit it. She bites her lip, but stays quiet for a moment, then finally whispers that is right, and they are pink. Angry now, she looks at him and insists that since she admitted it, he should hurry up and give her that. He hums while holding the plug up high, out of her reach. He tosses it aside and says he never promised to give it back. Frustrated, she asks him, using his title, what he really wants. He hums again, mimicking her question, and suggests maybe he should join her in the bathtub. He wonders if he does join her, would she back away, or try to escape? He figures neither would work, and he'd just pull her close. Out of courtesy, he'd ask if she is hurt, and she, being the kind person she is, would hesitate, unsure if she should admit her discomfort. But in reality, none of that matters to him. He just wants to spend time with her. He wants to find out if she feels warm. He tells her that is exactly what he wants to do, but he is trying to hold back, because Sally is a good girl. She thinks to herself, feeling disappointment, that he calls this holding back. Does he even understand what that means? She tells him she is truly disappointed in him, Captain. She never thought the captain would do something as terrible as this. Besides, he's going to be engaged to the Lady of the Grand Duchy, so why is he acting this way with her? He responds that she should explain that to him. She looks confused for a moment until she shrieks, as he suddenly pulls her from the tub by her foot. He says he never wanted to get involved in such messy situations, but every time he sees her, he feels excited, and it bothers him too. So, he asks her why he only feels this way around her. He believes it's just a gut feeling, but he thinks she knows the answer. After that, he grabs his suit jacket and walks out of the room, leaving her in a state of shock. Light clouds drift across the sky outside as Grace uses a ladder to dust the bookshelf in the vampire's office. He sits behind his desk, focused on reading a paper, while she glances at him with a look of disgust. He doesn't seem to notice her disdain, as he stays concentrated on his work. She remembers his last words in the bathroom, where he implied she knows the answer to what he asked. His instincts are correct, she does know the answer. This is truly torture for her. She can't handle it anymore and thinks about leaving, even if it means getting herself fired. His voice interrupts her thoughts as he says she's being a good girl again today, right? That's why he bought her, isn't it? She replies with tension, saying he doesn't need to touch her to know that. He counters that this is a body search, because Sally is suspected of having illegal weapons. She snaps back, pointing out that the illegal weapon is still in his desk drawer, Captain. He asks her if she knew about it. If so, why hasn't she taken it back? She looks at him confused and replies that he said it was confiscated, and that she can't break the law again. He rests his head on her body and says that she only seems to get smarter during moments like this. Suddenly, the door to the office swings open, and a man in uniform walks in. He sees the scene and quickly looks away, apologizing as he says he will come back later. The captain tells him it's fine, and to go ahead, and say what he needs to say. The man clears his throat, and says they just received new information regarding Jonathan Riddle Jr. Grace's eyes widen at the mention of the name. She repeats it in her mind and realizes that's her brother. Winston releases Grace and walks over to his table, with the soldier following closely behind him. The soldier informs Winston that Jonathan Riddle Jr. received a large sum of money a few days ago, and the sender's name was Holy Easter. Winston raises an eyebrow, amused by the situation, and glances at the soldier, wondering if they celebrated. The soldier continues, saying the money was sent from a post office in Winsford, Maine. He adds that the sender's face was partly covered by round black sunglasses, but she had long brown hair, fair skin, and looked to be in her early 20s. Winston asks if that is all, clearly unimpressed. The soldier averts his eyes and apologizes, explaining that they questioned the employee who processed the transfer, but nothing stood out, because the person was dressed very plainly. Winston smirks and comments that little Riddle is daring to sneak around his territory like a rat. Grace tries to stay calm, realizing how clueless Winston is. He doesn't even see that the rat is right under his nose, and it's funny how worked up he gets over it. Winston pulls out a large cigar and puts it in his mouth. He wonders why that rat-think woman would come to Winsford of all places. She wouldn't just stop there out of boredom. The soldier suggests that she could be targeting the Western Command, but Winston shakes his head and disagrees. He knows she wouldn't be careless enough to send money right in front of the operations area, knowing she would be tracked. He orders the soldier to have the men monitor the situation and report immediately if anyone suspicious is seen. The soldier bows and replies, "Yes, understood." Winston nods and tells him he did a good job and can leave. Winston keeps smoking as he watches Grace clean the floor on her knees. After a moment, he puts out his cigarette and approaches her quietly. Grace notices him, but before she can react, he scoops her up and carries her like a bride. She squeals, "Captain, what are you doing?" He tells her to stay still and insists he's not doing anything. Then, he forcefully takes off her cap, and she glares at him. He cups her chin and thinks about how she always runs around trying to escape him. He has looked into her background, and he knows that the entire Riddle family has blonde hair and either salmon or hazel eyes. The description at the post office likely meant she was wearing a disguise. He touches her hair and wraps some of it in his hands, saying he has really outdone himself this time. He wonders if she dyed her hair. She thinks it might be because of the person who sent the money. She needs to be more careful, especially with Winston's instincts. Sighing, she asks him if he thinks she is so old that she needs to dye her hair. He leans down until their noses almost touch. "Captain," she shouts, putting her hand over his mouth. He removes her hand and licks the spot where she touched him, making her look at him in disgust. Winston tells her he is a great kisser, and leans in closer. He asks if she's not curious about kissing. He lightly touches her lip and asks if she has ever kissed anyone before. She replies no, and he tells her that she should kiss him then. She refuses, so he asks why. He suggests she should feel honored to kiss a man who looks like he's straight out of a movie. She responds that it feels like a nightmare for someone who doesn't want it. He cups her face, calling her annoying. Grace tells him that his words and actions don't really match, and she asks him to please let her go. She wonders if they really need to have this conversation while he holds her like this. In response, he unbuttons the top button of her shirt. He admits that he felt strange every time he saw her, but it has gotten worse lately. It's distracting him so much that he can't even focus on his work because of her. Grace tells him that if that's the case, she will just disappear, or he can fire her. Winston says it doesn't have to go that far. Grace then asks him what exactly he's looking for, "Captain." Suddenly, he manhandles her and makes her sit on his lap. He tells her that they should just try it out and get it over with. She responds that if they actually go through with it, it will probably be more boring than he imagines. He tells her that once he loses interest in her, it will be easier for her. Grace insists that she doesn't like dirty and disgusting things. Winston pulls her closer and asks how she knows that if she hasn't even tried. He suggests that she might actually like it once she gives it a chance. Keeping her composure, she replies that wouldn't that be even worse. He asks her why she thinks that way. She explains that he might become so obsessed with her that he can't think straight. He tells her she is quite confident, but he could just as easily get tired of her. Grace replies that she would love it if he ever gets bored with her, he should just let her know. Winston smirks and says he can easily arrange a boring date. The afternoon sun shines warmly over the mansion as a black car drives through the gate. Inside the car are Grace and Winston, also known as the Vamp. Grace thinks to herself that if a woman dressed as poorly as she stands next to the dignified Leon Winston, he would probably be too embarrassed to look up. Winston mutters that he likes how she looks, and she turns her head quickly to him, asking pardon. His eyes focus on her legs, and he points out that those stockings are the ones he bought for her. She glances down at them and shyly pulls the hem of her dress over her legs. He then asks her what her answer is. She stares out the window and asks, "What answer?" He reminds her that he said yesterday they should just do it once and get it over with. Grace insists that she has no idea what he is talking about and asks where they are going. Winston replies that they are heading to the Winsford dock. She wonders why they are going to the dock. He smiles and rests his chin in his palm, saying it's a perfect place for a boring date. Grace looks at him, feeling unsure, and thinks that his annoying smile is making her want to get fired soon. As they drive, she shares a smile with the carriage driver. Suddenly, the car stops, and Grace is jolted out of her seat. She screams for Winston, and the car slightly brushes against the carriage. She yells at him to leave the driving to the professionals, because he is stepping on the brake too randomly. He asks her if that kind of face is her type. She breaks a sweat and asks, "Pardon?" Clarifying, she asks if he means Peter. She quickly screams no, insisting that she likes handsome men. Winston then asks her why she dislikes him. She replies that it's obvious, she likes handsome men. He looks at her as if she is crazy and rests his head in his hand. Grace adds that she also likes kind men. He laughs and says that makes sense. Her face goes pale as he tells her that he will remember she likes handsome and kind men. The sun is setting, and its warm rays cast a beautiful glow on a large pearl white ship that looks like it could rival the Titanic. The area is bustling with people, all chatting and laughing as they make their way to board the ship. Among the crowd are Grace and the Vamp, walking side by side. Grace glances up at the Vamp, her curiosity getting the better of her, and she asks him when they will return after they get on the ship. The Vamp strolls confidently with his hands tucked into his pockets, his back straight as he keeps his gaze ahead, exuding an air of self-assuredness that turns heads. He tells her they'll be back in 4 hours, and without hesitation, he suddenly wraps his arm around her waist, pulling her closer as he suggests that during those 4 hours, she should try to make it feel like 8. He adds that she should make it boring and tedious, and he playfully taps her nose, making her roll her eyes at his antics. They step into an elevator that will take them up into the ship. Inside, the atmosphere is tight as the Vamp holds her waist firmly, making her tremble slightly under his grip. Grace squirms, attempting to remove his hand, but he doesn't budge, keeping his hold strong. Feeling frustrated, she whispers for him to let go, but he just smiles slyly, refusing to release her. After a moment of this playful struggle, Grace can't take it anymore. She lets out a frustrated scream and steps hard on his foot to get him to loosen his grip. Instead of letting her go, he pulls her even closer, dipping her slightly as if they are caught in a romantic dance, making it look like they are a couple deeply in love to anyone watching. He then comments on how she seems unable to help herself, teasingly asking if she likes him that much. Grace's eyes widen at his words, and she feels heat rise to her cheeks as she's caught off guard. The Vamp continues with a smirk, suggesting that if she wants, they can head straight to the cabin for some room service, making her heart race as she bites her lip, contemplating her next move. She realizes she has to address this situation with him today. Just then, the elevator doors finally open, and the worker inside gestures to them, announcing that they have arrived at their destination. The people in front of them exit, and the Vamp finally allows Grace to stand on her own, yet he keeps his hand firmly on her waist, almost possessively. As they walk out, the elevator attendant bows slightly, wishing them a pleasant evening. Winston reaches into his pocket and pulls out a few bills, handing them to the boy as a tip. Watching this unfold, Grace feels a mix of astonishment and annoyance at how he is spending money so carelessly, reminding her of a well-fed pig. Suddenly, she feels a surge of determination, and this gives her the courage to break free from his grip. She storms out of the elevator, feeling empowered, while Winston calls after her, urging her to stay with him as he watches her walk away, his hidden annoyance evident in his expression. They sit across from each other at a small round table, the surface covered with a white linen cloth. The chairs are a simple brown, and around them, other couples are chatting and eating their meals, enjoying their time together. But their table sits empty. There is no food in front of them. The vamp looks at Grace and asks how she likes it here. She avoids making eye contact, resting her head on her hand, and replies that the place is a bit tacky. She adds that she can see why he brought her here. She's already feeling bored. As the night continues, the sounds of various instruments fill the air, and Grace stifles a yawn, complaining that even the pianist is dull and doesn't seem to know what is trendy these days. Hearing her, Winston laughs, trying to get her attention, but she looks confused and asks him why he is laughing. Inside, he thinks about how she is wearing clothes that look like cheap wrapping paper, yet she has the nerve to call the place tacky. He decides to tease her and asks what he should do instead. Calling her Sally, he mimics her gesture by resting his hand on his chin, and says he is having so much fun right now. His playful tone makes it clear he's not taking her complaints too seriously, and Grace feels a mix of annoyance and amusement at his response. The atmosphere between them feels light, even if the evening isn't going as she hoped. A waiter approaches their table and politely announces that he will be serving the veal dish and porterhouse steak they ordered. The vamp raises an eyebrow and asks Grace if she can really eat all that food. She confidently replies that of course she can because she is very hungry. Grabbing a fork and knife, she holds the meat down and cuts a bite-sized piece to eat. The vamp, folding his arms across his chest, tells her that no one is rushing her, so she should take her time and enjoy the view while she eats. Grace glances at the scenery for a moment before focusing back on her meal. In between bites, she casually mentions that she has seen the view and continues to eat. Once she finishes her meal, she thanks him for the food. The vamp's eyebrows shoot up in surprise as he realizes she actually ate everything. Grace licks her lips and dabs them with a napkin, commenting that it would be a waste to leave any food behind. Watching her lick her lips turns him on, and just then, the waiter returns with the dessert menu. Grace perks up, saying, "Oh, dessert. Great." She flips through the menu and decides she wants a hazelnut mascarpone cake. Curious, she asks the vamp if he wants cake too, but he shakes his head, saying no. Since he isn't ordering any, Grace declares that she will get one more for herself. She then turns to the waiter and adds a strawberry shortcake to her order. The vamp thinks to himself that she is really doing whatever she wants tonight. He comments that she eats very well, doesn't she? When the cakes arrive, Grace digs in eagerly. She pauses to respond to his question, saying that being a picky eater is a luxury that commoners like her cannot afford. As she takes a bite, a slice of cake falls from her fork and lands on her cleavage. She exclaims what a waste it is and uses her hand to scoop it up, which does not go unnoticed by the vamp. Grace then brings her hand to her mouth and sucks the cake off her fingers. The vamp, intrigued, asks her if she would like to try his dessert. She quickly says no. He interlocks his fingers and places them on the table, saying he made a polite offer, and that she could at least pretend to think about it. Grace sips her wine and tells him that she has been rejecting him with her whole body, but he still made the offer anyway, Captain. The playful tension hangs in the air as they continue their dinner, the atmosphere light, but charged. He looks at Grace and says, "Miss Bristol, how about you become an actress if you get fired?" She raises an eyebrow and asks why he suddenly thinks of acting. He chuckles and tells her that the other day in the office, he thought she was crying because she was scared of him, but now he realizes she had him completely fooled. Grace, feeling a bit frustrated, takes a big gulp of her wine and insists that she wasn't acting then. She was genuinely afraid of losing her job. Now, she wonders if she has to put up with this kind of humiliation just to make money. With a stern look, she places her hands on the table, fingers interlocked. He thinks to himself, humiliation, as he notices her glare. He can't believe that this maid has the nerve to use such a word with him. He asks her if feeding a lady well is a humiliation. She replies that he keeps trying to fill her with something different, and that makes him throw his head back in laughter. He finds it amusing and says, "Fill you with something different? I didn't know you could talk like that." He then asks her if she always flirts first and then treats a man like a lecher once he falls for it. Grace insists that she never tried to seduce anyone, so she is the pitiful one in this situation. Looking out the window, she says that they are done now and thanks him for the meal, calling him Captain. What was supposed to be a fun date turns out to be a 4-hour ordeal where he just watches her eat. He shakes his head and says that she naturally does things that drive him wild, especially in that light pink outfit mixed with red and brown. He describes those colors, saying they remind him of dried blood on rough ropes and fresh red seeping from torn flesh. He tells her he sees her effort, but he believes it won't pay off. She is destined to fail. As they drive back from the cruise, the security men open the door for them. While he is behind the wheel, he says he has never had a date fail this badly in his life. He tells her that she could have done a better job, and calls her a failure. She glances at him with contempt. Then, they notice women dressed in formal clothes, and he suddenly remembers that the Duchess is supposed to visit today. Grace thinks to herself that he went on a date with her on the day the Duchess was supposed to come. Has he completely lost his mind? Winston steps out of the car to meet the angry women. Grace watches him and thinks that maybe this is a good thing. Mrs. Winston must have noticed the situation, right? She knows Mrs. Winston wouldn't let this slide. All she needs to do is go back and wait for her orders. As she gets out of the car, ready to leave, Winston walks back, picks her up off the ground, and tells her who said she could leave. The surprise of his action makes her heart race, as she realizes she's not going anywhere just yet. The vamp strides down the corridor, firmly pulling Grace along with him. She pleads with him, worried about Mrs. Winston's reaction if she finds out. He responds that they aren't done yet and insists they need to talk about her failure from earlier. Grace looks at him, disbelief written across her face, but they continue walking until they enter a room full of men in sharp business attire. Upon seeing him, they stand up straight and salute him, greeting him as Captain. He waves them off, commanding them to leave, and they quickly comply, leaving Grace alone with him. This is her moment, she thinks, and with a quick movement, she slips her hand from his grip, feeling a spark of freedom. She makes a break for the open door, but he swiftly rushes after her, slamming the door shut just before she can escape. He positions himself right behind her, effectively trapping her between himself and the door. She scowls and turns to glare at him, insisting that it's too late to discuss her earlier failure, and asks him to let her go. He argues that someone who has messed up doesn't get to make demands. He had high expectations for her, and she has disappointed him with her clear mistakes. Suddenly, without warning, he lifts her over his shoulder, ignoring her protests and declaring her a complete failure. She tells him to put her down, but he simply tosses her onto the floor. Grace takes a moment to steady herself, reminding herself to stay calm. She knows that if things go sideways, she'll be ready to fight back, especially since she's certain she's about to be kicked out anyway. He opens his coat to reveal pistols tucked neatly inside the pockets. She realizes that since her original plan flopped, it's time to accept his approach. He rolls up his sleeves, indicating he means business, and states that even if she cries, he won't let her go. He positions himself over her, making it clear that she has two options laid out for her. The first is to willingly join him and walk out unscathed. The second is for them to force a relationship, which will leave her in a disheveled state after spending time in his embrace. He suggests that this second option might suit her better and offers to give her anything she wants, but it must fall within these two choices. Grace counters that there's no need for him to force her, she's willing to cooperate. He lifts her chin gently, leaning in closer for a kiss, but she stops him just before their lips touch, asking him for one small promise. He looks curious and asks what it is. She specifies that he shouldn't draw blood during their encounter. He raises an eyebrow at her, seemingly surprised, and replies that he can't make that promise at this moment, but maybe he could in the future. With a resigned sigh, she closes her eyes, feeling her cheeks heat up, and cups his face with her hands, pulling him closer as she gives her consent. Their lips finally meet, sealing the deal between them in that charged moment. As they make out, Grace feels a sudden urge to reach for his gun, but the vamp quickly catches her hand. He looks at her with a mix of surprise and amusement, asking if she thinks he is that careless. He makes her release her grip on the gun and then pins her to the floor, holding her neck gently but firmly. He leans in closer, reminding her not to forget that she was the one who broke the promise first. They start to struggle on the floor, both trying to gain the upper hand. He manages to take control, leaning closer as he attempts to push her into a more intimate situation. Grace feels a mix of excitement and panic as she realizes how close he is to getting his way. Just as it seems he might succeed, the door suddenly swings open and his mother walks in. The unexpected interruption freezes them in their positions, leaving a tense silence in the room. Winston sits in a chair while a doctor takes care of him. The Duchess is nearby, attended to by maids. The vamp is getting stitches, and once the doctor finishes, he adjusts his glasses and tells him that he is all done for now. He explains that he has completed the treatment, but warns that there is a risk of a concussion. If he notices any strange symptoms, even a little, he should call him right away. With that, the doctor says he will take his leave. As soon as the doctor leaves, his mother screams his name, asking if he is in his right mind. She questions what he was thinking to get into such a mess. She worries about how she will face the Grand Duchess now that the engagement is so close. She scolds him, asking if he is trying to drive her crazy. Winston thinks to himself that here we go again. It feels like once more, his mother cares more about her reputation than about him. Even though he is the one involved in this engagement, her main concern is how it looks. She puts her head in her hands, saying she can't believe it. After everything it took to arrange this engagement, he is messing it all up. Winston tries to calm her down, telling her not to worry, and that there's no need for such concern. She looks at him like he has lost his mind and screams in disbelief. She reminds him that this engagement is not about love, it's a transaction. She tells him that the Grand Duchess won't care what he does or who he is with, and deep down, he feels the same way. His mother shouts at him, pointing out how he is talking. She reminds him of what she has told him since he was young, never to forget what happened to his father. She emphasizes how much their family has struggled because of that one woman, and how hard things have been for them ever since. She explains that because of that one woman, their entire family could fall apart. Winston pushes himself away from her, clearly frustrated. His mother pretends to be hurt, and says she was just so worried. She expresses that after everything that happened that day, he should see women as nothing but pests. She suggests that honestly, it would be better if he continued to think of them that way. She demands to know what this cunning maid has done to him, asking him to tell her everything. While Winston knows his mother isn't entirely wrong, he feels stuck in the situation. The vamp takes a big, fat cigar and lights it up. He inhales deeply, trying to gather his thoughts. He isn't attracted to her at all, he just finds everything about her annoying. But he can't help but wonder what this maid has done to him. Ever since she got put in charge of that creepy torture chamber, he feels uneasy. There is just something about her being alone there that seems really wrong to him. How could he possibly end up with someone like her? Is she trying to make the Grand Duchess jealous or something? He smirks and says, of course not. It's just that the smell of blood mixed with flesh and those sharp turquoise eyes make him lose his sense of reason. It feels like she is controlling him in some way. He can't believe this is happening on the day he is supposed to meet the Grand Duchess. He thinks to himself that he has never forgotten his responsibilities, but this situation is really testing him. Meanwhile, his mom is frustrated and says forget it. She needs to fire that maid right away. He glares at her and gets up from his seat. He walks away, but she screams after him, calling his name and asking where he is going all of a sudden. He turns around and tells her that if she wants the maid fired, he will go do it right now. His mom stands there looking at her son like he has lost his mind. She wonders how someone like him could come from her. At the same time, Sally paces in a room, feeling anxious. She thinks the head maid will probably come to fire her soon. All she needs to do is pack her things and leave. She taps her lip, lost in thought, but flinches at the cut on her lip. She goes to the mirror and starts cursing under her breath. If only she had drawn her gun a little earlier. Instead, she got completely distracted by that damn kiss. Then, a memory pops into her mind about her first kiss. She remembers how she and the young boy kissed. After it happened, she said it was a kiss, her first kiss. The boy asked her if she didn't like it, and she replied that she actually did. He then asked if they should do it again. They held hands, interlocking their fingers. The memory fades away, and we see her crouched on the floor, holding her head in her hands. She mutters to herself that she must be crazy, and that she has definitely lost it. Suddenly, she hears her name being called from outside the door. She backs away from the door and reaches for her gun, which is tucked in her thigh holster. She wonders why he came back again. Wasn't earlier enough? She asks him if he's there to find another way to make his mother faint. From the other side of the door, he replies that it's not that at all. He tells her he came to say that he will write her a letter of recommendation with his signature on it. With that, she could easily find work anywhere. He tells her to just stay put until they find someone to replace her. Her eyes widen at his words, surprised and confused. She thinks to herself that he is really letting her go, and even giving her a recommendation. He says that is all he came to say, and that he will be on his way now. Feeling a rush of emotion, she quickly opens the door, but there's no one there. She laughs to herself, calling him a lunatic. One of the security men calls her Grace, then quickly corrects himself, saying Sally. He asks her if she really plans to leave, because if she does, who will he rely on? She stands in front of the security man, holding her bags. He reminds her that last time, he really messed up by throwing up in the private room, and now he's stuck doing menial tasks. She reassures him not to worry too much, and that he will be fine. He has Peter and Nancy to back him up. He should remember his comrades who struggle alongside him. He gets frustrated and says that if it weren't for those royal pigs, Sally wouldn't be in this mess. But he adds that she shouldn't worry, because he will avenge her. She clasps his hands and tells him no, Fred. He shouldn't even think about that. He needs to focus on the tasks given to him and never let Winston notice him, got it? Fred wants to argue, but she cuts him off, saying that she understands how he feels, and that's enough for her. She may have failed her mission, but she can make up for it with another one. He then asks her if she will marry the commander-in-chief if she returns. She replies that they haven't really discussed that yet. He calls her Sally again, and says if by any chance he completes his mission and returns successfully, she should remember him. She responds, Private Smith, and he tells her that Captain Winston is calling for her. "Follow me," he says. Confused, she asks, "What? Me? Why?" Another man approaches them and says, "Sally, today's your last day on duty, right? Sorry to trouble you until the end, but we need to use the torture room today. Captain Winston asked me to let you know to get it ready." Meanwhile, Fred sits in a chair in the mansion, trembling like a leaf. He breaks a sweat and clenches his fists on his knees, biting his lip nervously as he wonders what's going on. Why did Winston call him and not the other soldiers? As Winston walks by, he glares at Fred, and they exchange looks. Fred thinks to himself, are they watching him? Did they find out who he is? But he hasn't done anything wrong. Another man walks in and calls, "Private Fred Smith, come in." Fred feels his heart race as he responds, "Yes," and walks in to see the vamp, who tells him to take a seat. Fred asks if he did something wrong. As he sits, he notices the tension in the room. The vamp asks, "Why? Is something bothering you?" Fred quickly answers, "No, Captain." The vamp pours bourbon into a cup and explains that he's calling him today because he has a covert mission that needs to be handled discreetly without the higher-ups knowing. He mentions that he has shortlisted suitable candidates, and Fred is one of them. Winston pushes the drink toward Fred. Fred stares at the drink in front of him, surprised that he is being considered a candidate. He thinks to himself that he thought the vamp disliked him since he threw up in the torture room last time. He expresses his shock and says it's an honor to the captain. Winston tells him that he just wants Fred to know that the two rookies before him failed, so he has very high expectations for him. Feeling excited, Fred insists that Winston should just give him the task and he will get it done. Winston mentions that Fred already seems reliable, introducing him as Private Fred Smith. Fred responds quickly, confirming his identity. Winston asks if it's true that Fred is from Fairhill in Raven. Fred knows the Fairhill background is fake, made up by the higher-ups to get him into the Winston household, so he reminds himself to stay calm. He has memorized everything about Fairhill and his fake profile by heart. Winston explains that they've received intelligence about a Blanchard rat mixed into the village committee there, and he needs Fred to investigate since it's his hometown, meaning no one will suspect him snooping around. Fred breaks into a sweat, but nods quickly, saying yes and insisting Winston should just give him the task. Winston then says that the village committee chairman's name is Mr. Mason, and Fred quickly answers correctly. Both men raise their glasses and take a drink. Winston confirms that's correct and adds that Fairhill is known for its ski tourism. Fred shares that he remembers going on a family ski trip there when he was younger, and he starts to tell a funny story. The vamp leans his head on his hand, showing interest. Fred laughs and explains that there was this shop selling warm mulled wine, and the owner thought he was an adult just because of his size. He sold them a lot of alcohol, and that day, he and Jerome got completely drunk and fell into the snow. The vamp sighs, and Fred nervously adds that if the pub customers hadn't found them, they would have frozen to death. The vamp mentions that Mrs. Winston must have been very worried. He asks Fred if he knows Albert, the pot-bellied pub owner. Fred confirms that he does know Albert and describes him as a cheerful man. He gulps down his drink, thinking about the winter festival they used to have. He asks if it was called St. Maurice's feast day. The vamp agrees and says yes, it was St. Maurice's feast day, and that it was a really unique festival where they baked gingerbread shaped like people. Winston shakes a bottle and adds that they bite the necks and split them in two, which is quite a violent event for a rural village. Fred starts to sweat while Winston jokes, asking if his joke isn't funny. Fred quickly agrees, saying yes, Captain, it's funny. Winston then tells Fred that he has never been to Fairhill, but knows well enough that the festival is called St. Nicholas's feast day, not St. Maurice. Winston looks unimpressed, resting his head on his chin. He corrects Fred, saying it's not gingerbread but rye bread. Then, he suddenly accuses Fred of being a rat, saying that the full name is Fred John Smith, Father Robert, and his occupation is a butcher. He questions how a son raised by a butcher can get nauseous at the sight of blood. He then orders to arrest him. Fred jumps up, trying to run away, insisting that it is not him, arguing that he is innocent. In the torture chamber, Fred sees all kinds of torture tools hanging around. Some are on the walls, and many are laid out on a table. Winston asks Fred if he remembers the driver he smuggled out. He reminds Fred that he himself, Winston, had once tied that driver to the same chair Fred is sitting in now and pulled out his fingernails one by one. Fred trembles in his seat, thinking about how serious the situation is. Winston seems pleased to have someone to torture, wearing black gloves and holding a tool in his hands. Fred starts to panic, saying that 4 servants died during Gervin's raid. Winston tells him that his crimes are very serious. Fred screams that it wasn't him, sweat pouring down his face and saliva escaping from his mouth. He insists he didn't do anything wrong, because he's just too stupid. Winston looks at him with a cold glare, and Fred starts to cry, begging for mercy. Mucus drips from his nose, and tears fill his eyes. Winston smiles darkly, saying that he doesn't know how to show mercy, but he does know about deals. He calls Fred the last rat of the Riddle family. Fred's eyes widen as he realizes that the only way to save himself is to betray his friend, Grace. Winston tells Fred to hand over that little rat to him. More sweat breaks out on Fred's skin as he struggles to find the words. He shakes uncontrollably, insisting that he can't do that. Winston raises his knife, saying that if Fred won't cooperate, the deal is off. He reassures Fred that he won't kill him quickly, then picks up a set of pliers. Men in uniform hold Fred down as he fights against his restraints. He begs Winston, pleading that he didn't do anything, that someone else leaked the information. He keeps shouting that it wasn't him, he didn't do it. Winston stops for a moment, the pliers hovering just above Fred's hand. He asks the crying man in the chair who the real traitor is. Fred struggles to answer, but in pain, he finally screams out the name Sally. Sally Bristol. Winston's face darkens as he processes the name in his mind. In another part of the mansion, a maid named Grace, who goes by the code name Sally, pushes a wheelbarrow filled with items down a corridor lit by diamond-shaped lamp holders. She thinks to herself that she didn't expect her last day of work to end in the torture room. She knows she needs to quickly figure out who the guest is that entered the torture room and then leave this place for good. As she approaches the door, she reaches for the handle, but suddenly feels a strong hand gripping her from behind. It's the captain. He looks at her and says she is diligent right until the end. Grace retorts, asking what this is all about and demands him to let her go. The captain smirks and asks what if he doesn't want to. Grace, feeling brave, tells him that this time she could kick him somewhere other than his solar plexus. He just smiles and signals to some men to take away the cart she was pushing. Grace's eyes widen in alarm as she struggles to free herself, shouting for them to wait, because she hasn't cleaned yet. The captain calmly tells her that there is no need to clean anymore. Instead, he wants her to see something. He pulls out a big green file. Grace opens it and asks if this is the recommendation letter she mentioned earlier. She realizes it's the first time she's ever received a recommendation letter inside a document folder. But as she reads, her eyebrows crease in confusion when she sees the name alias, Little Riddle. She wonders why that name is in there. She tries to stay calm and not tremble. The captain stands with his arms crossed, watching her closely. She thinks this might just be a test. As she reads further, she sees traits that match her: light skin, dark brown hair, turquoise eyes, and that she's 26 years old. Her last name is Riddle, her known alias is Sally Bristol, and her real name is Grace. Sweat begins to break on her forehead as she processes the information, and she glances nervously at the dangerous man behind her. Suddenly, he grabs her by the throat and pushes her backward. The file slips from her hand and scatters across the floor. He says, "Goodbye, Sally Bristol," as he chokes her. His face shows a murderous intent. Then he adds, "Nice to meet you, Grace Riddle." He asks if she knew that the person who revealed her identity is waiting in the torture room. When he finally releases her neck, she coughs for air and rubs her throat while peeking through the door. The captain commands her to say hello to Fred Wilkins, the one who revealed her name before Winston even got a chance to touch him. Fred shakes like a leaf, hiccuping nervously as he stutters a shaky "Hi, Grace." He apologizes repeatedly, tears starting to roll down his cheeks. Grace bites her lip, feeling heat rise to her face. She tells him not to say her name, because he has no right to. The captain stands behind her and gently caresses her shoulders, asking if Fred has the right to say her name. He then adds that every time he sees her eyes, he feels something strange inside him. He forces her to look him in the eyes, insisting that it's like trying to fit a mismatched puzzle piece together. The captain claims he has been waiting for this moment. No, he corrects himself, he means Grace. The captain nuzzles our girl from behind, saying that he means Grace. He tilts her head slightly, and after a moment, he releases her and wonders why his instincts, which usually tell him that someone is a spy, are so clouded this time. He presses a knife against her throat, and Grace squirms in fear, but she stops moving when he tightens his grip. She goes silent, and the captain, annoyed with her silence, tells her to answer him. He asks if it is her fault that he is about to become the laughing stock of the entire kingdom. The knife digs into her skin just enough to leave a mark, but not deep enough to draw blood. He complains that his job is to catch spies and interrogate them, yet he has a spy right under his nose, and not just any spy, but a woman. Grace trembles as the knife touches her flesh, and she begs him to stop. He pulls the knife away from her neck, but still holds her tightly, saying they should discuss where to send his body and condolences. He reminds her that he is the last heir to a notorious gangster family, and that giving him such a rookie is a big insult. If they don't listen to him, he pauses to point the knife at Fred, who screams in fear. The captain places the knife close to Fred's ear, making him pale. Fred cries out for Grace, tears in his eyes, pleading for her to save him. He knows his life is hanging by a thread. Fred screams Grace's name again in desperation. Grace bites her lip and shakes as Winston's next words sink in. He asks her how it feels to be remembered as the woman who killed her comrade. She thinks about how she told Jimmy from the beginning that Fred wasn't suitable to be a spy. Blood stains her hands as she cradles her neck and asks Winston what he wants. He leans closer and tells her not to pretend to be stupid, because she already knows the answer. Grace sighs and lowers her head in sadness at what's coming. Fred calms down a bit and asks her what she is doing. Winston seems unfazed and continues talking. She firmly tells him to stop, and Fred screams at Winston not to touch Grace. Winston responds, saying, "Darling, did you hear that? He's telling me not to touch you after he handed you over to me." Grace feels frustrated at the situation. Winston then starts to question her, demanding to know if she received orders to get information. Grace struggles to speak as Winston goes on about how she kept appearing in front of him. He expresses annoyance at how ridiculous he must have looked, setting her up without knowing she was the enemy. Finally, he stops and lets her breathe. She slumps to the ground, gasping for air. "Miss Grace Riddle," he says, commending her for her dedication to her duty until the very end. He then tells her that he will give her a special opportunity to complete her mission. Winston grins as he talks about how revolutionaries teach their women to be seductive. He looks at Grace and reminds her that she is the daughter of a prostitute who managed to charm many military officers with just her lower lip. He feels excited to have the last of her line, a woman with a background full of infamous seductresses, right in front of him. He extends his hand to her and tells her that she needs to ace a test. If she fails, someone else will pay the price. Hearing this, Fred starts crying uncontrollably. Tears stream down his face, and mucus drips from his nose as he pleads, "Save me, Grace. Save me, please." Grace, still on the floor, manages to croak out that they should change locations. Winston looks at her and asks what he would get from doing that. Grace glares at him and insists that if he doesn't want to deal with a corpse, they should cover Fred's eyes. Winston waves his hands dismissively and says they are too close for that kind of request. Fred screams, "No. What are they trying to do? No, Grace." Winston orders the others to cover Fred's eyes, saying that the fear he cannot see is more painful than anything else.
She looks up to Fred and sees him still groaning in pain, blindfolded. He begs her to untie it. She stands up slowly and walks to him and removes the blindfold. She asks him if he is all right. He looks at her, angry, calling her a whore. She is surprised to hear that. He asks her why she did such a thing with that royal pig. He asks if she was a prostitute all along. She is too shocked to reply. He continues, saying that that is the reason they gave her all those kind of orders. He curses her again. He continues, saying that it is because of her that she got dragged into this mess. She cuts him short from talking, asking what he expected her to do. That the captain had said he was going to kill him, that he would die because of her. She doesn't know what she was supposed to do. Screaming, he asks her what else she should have done. He is angry, and she gets angry as well. Cutting him short, she tells him that she would have let the male lead kill him. He looks at her, surprised at what she just spurted out. Calmly, he calls her and tells her that he didn't mean it that way, that he just got too worked up for a moment. Suddenly, 2 guards comes in and carries him away. He tells them to hold on, that he is still talking to Grace, but they are not listening. As they walk away, the male lead tells them not to kill him, that he is still useful. They carry him away with him, crying and calling on Grace, asking her if she knows that she didn't mean all what he said. She looks on as he is dragged away. She feels he deserves it since she ended up here because of him, so she wants him to experience just a bit of the same. The male lead comes and carries her, telling her that they should head to the bed. The scene shows outside the building, in the garden. Fred is kneeling down with some soldiers surrounding him. Captain Winston is there too. Fred looks around, his face is battered. He wonders if he is really going to die today. He really doesn't want to die. He wants to live. The captain standing in front of him tells him that he would let him live and send him away. Fred looks at him in disbelief. He asks if he doesn't believe him. Immediately, Fred bows down on his feet, telling him thank you. The male lead looks at him. He is practically groveling like he would lick his boots. Even knowing the humiliation our girl endured, he didn't even ask what happened to her. He feels Fred is a cowardly little rat. He tells him that there is a condition for his freedom. Fred asks him what it is, adding that he would do anything. The male lead brings out an envelope. Giving it to him, he tells him to deliver it to his commander. He adds that he has kept his word, so he should get going. Fred stands up immediately and begins to run. He is happy. He didn't go far when a gun is shot towards his direction. He falls at first and stands up to continue his journey more quickly. The male lead orders Campbell not to let him escape, that once he has served his purpose, he should be taken care of. Scene shows our girl in the interrogation room. A guard is sitting directly opposite her. He tells her that she would be treated like other spies and sent to the camp soon, so she should be prepared. She listens silently. That is what she wants. Whether it is the Western Command or the camp. She doesn't care. She just wants to get out of the mansion. After a while, the male lead shows up. She is surprised to see him. She wonders when he arrived. She wonders if he reported to the command before coming here. He carries her on his arms. She asks him where he is taking her to, but he doesn't reply. He drops her on the bed and stands there looking at her. She wonders why he is doing so. Could it be that before sending her to the camp, he is going to sleep with her? Suddenly, he holds her cheek. Before she could say anything, he begins to kiss her. She looks at him, wondering why he is suddenly acting like this. He is being gentle, unlike usual. He looks at her intently and calls her Daisy, his first love. The first time he saw that girl was the day he arrived at this villa. The scene shows little Captain Winston running around the environment. He sees a girl at the beach and stops, looking at her. Suddenly, a guard runs to her and asks her what she is doing there, that the beach is a private beach for the inhabitants of the villa. He tells her to get out of there. She stands up slowly, mocking the man by making funny comments. She runs away. The male lead looks at her and wonders who she is. Few days later, he sees her around again. On another occasion, he sees her climbing a tree and he wonders if she is a thief. He asks her what she is doing over there. His voice startles her and she slips and falls from the tree, screaming. Immediately, he rushes and catches her before she reaches the ground. She becomes remorseful and apologizes. She is about to walk away when he also apologizes to her too. As an afterthought, he wonders why he is the one apologizing, adding that she is the one who have been spying on someone else's villa. So she should be the one to apologize. She asks him why she shouldn't look. He replies that spying on someone's property is rude and wrong, like something a thief would do. He asks her what she was planning to steal. She replies that she wasn't planning to steal anything, that she was just peeking. He asks her what she was peeking, and she replies that she was peeking at him, that he is really pretty. He looks at her for a while, speechless. He asks her if she is an idiot, that they don't call a guy pretty, they call them handsome. She smiles and tells him that he looks so pretty even when he is angry. He tells her that she is not pretty. He tells her to forget that he said anything to her. She asks him if he would grant her a request since they are talking already. She wants to touch his hair, just once. He is surprised to hear that she wants to touch his hair. He is surprised that she asked that kind of thing to someone she just met. She begins to look down and apologizes for being weird. She tells him that she just thought it looked so beautiful that she wanted to try touching it. He bends his head for her to touch it. She does so and he asks her if she is happy now. She lifts her hand up and comments that touching his hair feels like touching the sunlight. He tells her that if she touched the sunlight, her hand would burn. She asks him if that is so and thanks him for telling her. He notices her long gaze on him and asks her what the problem is. She tells him that she is jealous, that her whole family has blonde hair, but she is the only one with brown hair. He looks at her and wonders why she is a brunette if her whole family is blonde. Suddenly, she puts her hand in her bag and reaches for a chocolate. She tells him that it is gift, adding that she was saving it for herself, but has decided to give it to him. He asks her why she decided to do that. She replies that it is for all the times he caught her staring at him. He looks at it. He is surprised to see that she was saving this cheap chocolate. She waves at him and leaves the place, adding that she would come by again and stare at him some more. He looks at his hand and feels she is weird girl. Later that day, the male lead is seen in a class with a book in front of him. He seems lost as he is in deep thoughts. The teacher reads aloud the words on the book. The male lead isn't listening. He feels attending a geology class at a resort where everyone else is enjoying the beach is dull. One of the students raised his hand and tells the teacher that he read there is evidence of all continents once being a single supercontinent can be found in the coastal cliffs. He asks the teacher if it is true. The male lead becomes frustrated. This guy have probable extended the closing time. He is angry. His mother comes to the door and sees him not concentrating. After the class, she asks him why his attitude is always like that he likes talking about boring things like hunting or cricket with the daughters of the Duke's family. He asks his mother if it would have been better if he talked about military law instead. His mother can't believe it. She blurts out that his twisted personality takes after his father. She asks him if both of them are trying to drive him crazy. The male lead looks at her. He wonders why it is a problem to bring up military law, but it is never one when Jerome ramble on about dinosaur fossils. He wonders why dinosaurs are okay, but military law isn't. Scene shows him with his father. The man tells him that every human being is just a chess piece to others. He is surprised to hear that. His father continues, telling him that what matters is whether one is treated like a pawn or queen. He tells him that it doesn't matter whether someone likes him or not, so he shouldn't dwell too much on it, adding that a man must know how to strike before he gets struck. The male lead's mother believed that nobles should have refinement, while his father believed that men should have strength. The both of them were raised according to his parents' preferences. Because of that, he was never particularly upset by his mother's blatant favoritism. Later that day, cars begin to troop into the compound. The male lead can see it from his room window. The unbearably dull party is about to begin. He puts his hand into his pocket and brings out the chocolate that he was gifted. He recalls when she said she will come again to look at him. He remembers something. He doesn't know her name. He goes to the tree where he saw her. After standing there for a while, he feels a little bit tired. Even though she had said she would come back, he doesn't care anymore. If she doesn't show up, then he would go and looks for her himself. He carries his bicycle and is about to leave the compound. Jerome runs towards him and asks him where he is going to, that the party is about to start. He replies that he has something to do. He tells him to get away from his front. Jerome refuses and tells him that these are the people their mother want to introduce to them. The male lead glares at him angrily. Jerome asks him if he thinks glaring at him in that manner would make him scared. The male lead calls him his full name and tells him that for the sake of their mother, who wishes that he was the eldest son, he can take his place and play the role of the eldest son today. He tells him that he would be off now. He drives away quickly. As he drives away, Jerome shouts at him not to order him around like that he is not his subordinate. He tells him to come back, that he can't leave. The male lead doesn't even reply him. On the streets, the little girl can be seen begging a man to allow her take an item on credit. She adds that it is so hot and she is really thirsty. She swears to pay him tomorrow morning. The man turns away from her, telling her that he doesn't give handouts to beggars. She replies that she is not a beggar, but he isn't listening. Someone comes from behind her and comments that the man is rude, saying that he didn't only refuse to help a lady in distress, but he humiliated her as well. The vendor sees the male lead and greets him shakily. He asks if the girl is his acquaintance. Apologizing, he asks him what he can get for him. The male lead tells him that he wants a bottle of sparkling water, not Appenzeller, but Chalet instead. He asks the girl what she wants to take, and she replies that she wants ice cream. After a while, everything is ready. Strawberry ice cream is given to the girl. As she holds the ice cream, she begins to think about what she has been hearing. Adults call the noble greedy pigs, but she doesn't really get it. As she walks with the male lead, people wave to him. She feels other people seem to like nobles, and well, she likes this boy too. They sit at the park and they began to talk. She tells him that he is just like a prince. He cleans his mouth and asks her why she didn't come to see him. She asks him if he was waiting, and he says no immediately, saying that he just didn't have anything else to do. He looks at her reaction and feels he would have honestly told her the truth. After some silence, he tells her that his name is Leon and asks her for her own name. She hesitates for a while and tells him her name at last, Daisy. She asks him if he lives here, and he says no, that he is just visiting a vacation house. He asks her if she is living here, and she replies no, that she is here for something like a family vacation. He asks her what she means by something like that. She changes the topic, telling him that it is her first time here and she is really excited. The sea is so beautiful. He tells her that she is on a family vacation, but she is wandering around alone without her parents. He asks her if that is really okay. She hesitates before telling him that they are busy. She tries to change the topic, standing up. She asks him if she should pick some oranges for him in order to thank him for the ice cream. He looks at her, inquisitive. She tells him that she is good at climbing trees, so she will be able to get them in no time. He tells her not to climb a tree while wearing a skirt. She asks why, and he tells her that it is improper. She asks him why it would be improper. He is silent for a while before blurting out, "Pink." She thinks for a while. That is the color of her pant she was wearing the other day when she fell off the tree. She tells him that she is wearing white today. She calls him a pervert. He replies that she would say that is why he didn't want to bring it up. People can see them exchanging words. The scene shows a carriage. The little girl's father is with her mother and they are kissing and in deep embrace. Our girl is at home with her parents. Her mother calls her Grace and tells her that they are not here of a vacation, but for a mission. The girl is confused for a while. Then she asks if it's like the heroes they see in movies. Her mother says yes, that just like the heroes who save the world, they also have a mission they must complete. She tells the girl that she also has a mission. The girl asks what the mission is, and her mother tells her that she can play freely like the other kids on vacation. But no matter who she meets, she must not tell them her real name. Grace asks her why she can't say her name, and she replies that just like the heroes who save the world, she also needs to keep her identity a secret. Suddenly, her father appears at the door and calls on his wife. He tells her that it is time and she shouldn't forget why they are here. This time, they have to get close to Winston and extract the information. Back to present where our girl is in the park. Standing up, he calls her Daisy, reminding her that she earlier wanted to repay him for the ice cream. He tells her to forget about that. Instead, she should hang out with him. She asks him where, and he points to a merry-go-round close to them and tells her that she doesn't expect him to go there alone. She looks at him walking away slowly. She heard noble kids hire companions just to play with them. She wonders if this is something like that. Meanwhile, as Leon rolls his bicycle along with him, he's new to these things, so he is not sure if he is doing it right. He have never asked someone out before. If he had known, he would have paid more attention to how Jerome does it. They moved to the merry-go-round and tried it. They tried out all the games in the park. He catches her looking and asks her what she is looking at, asking if she has seen something pretty. The next place they tried out is the haunted house. As they enter the building, it looks so scary. Suddenly, a white clothes rises up and she jumps to Leon, holding him tightly and begging him not to let go. He tells her that there's no way he'd let her go when she is holding him so tightly. Next, they try out the shooting game. He hits the target and she exclaims that it's amazing. He replies that she is now saying that he is something else other than pretty. He hits the target twice and wins a dolphin. He offers it to her. She is very happy. She comments that even her brother and Jimmy never succeeded at this. She tells him that he is incredible. He replies that it's not really a very big deal. She sees some apple candies and removes one, saying they should eat it together. He tells her that he is not really into sweet things. She takes a bite, and as an afterthought, he follows suit, looking directly at her eyes. It's so sweet and fresh. He wonders if a kiss would taste like this. He holds her chin and brings his mouth closer to her. He goes closer and she closes her eyes, expecting something. Then he uses his hand to remove something from her hair, bringing it to her notice. She looks disappointed. They move to where they sell jewelries. They both see a shiny necklace and he carries it, saying it would look pretty on her. She tells him to drop it and not pay for it. He asks why, and she replies that her mother told her not to dress up too much, so things like this aren't allowed. He looks at her. Her mother told her not to dress up too much. Other young ladies from other families are always busy dressing up. Following her closely behind, he agrees with her. Touching her hair, he tells her that she doesn't need accessories like that anyway, adding that she have the sea in her eyes. She looks at him. The sea in her eyes? She wonders what made him to say such a beautiful thing. They decide to try the turning wheel out as they get to the entrance. The attendant tells them that they are closed for the day, that they should come back the next day. Leon won't take this. He puts his hand in his pocket and removes some notes, telling the attendant that he'd pay 5 times the amount. They're seen in the wheel. It's turning up. Our girl comments that she can see the sea. She sits down beside him as the wheel turns ahead. She looks into his face. He looks at her and discovers that her lip is bleeding. He brings it to her knowledge and she decides to wipe it. He tells her to wait and he takes his head closer to her. He has been wondering what this would feel like all day. This is the refreshing scent of a candy apple, the sticky texture of toffee. More than that, he wonders why her blood is that sweet. Suddenly, she tells him that it's too much. Looking down, she tells him that this is her first kiss. She asks him why he did that without saying anything. He asks her if she doesn't like it. Then she smiles and tells him that she liked it. He asks if they can do it again. She says yes, and they continue. Later that night, he is bringing her back home, walking hand in hand. He comments that this is quite far from his villa. He asks her if she walks this distance every day just to see him. She says yes. He feels he should have talked to her sooner. He asks her when she is going back home, adding that he will be here for at least another month. Her mind goes back to what her father told them earlier, that they shouldn't forget why they're here. She tells him that she doesn't know when she would go back home. As they walk in silence, she is deep in thoughts. She wishes that neither she or him had to go back home. After some minutes of silence, he calls her and asks her if she wants to hang out again the next day. She wants to stop him from calling her Daisy and tells him her real name, but she remembers her mother's warning. She's still about to go against it when a car stops in front of them. A man pokes his head outside the window and tells them to leave the road. As he looks clearly, he recognized Leon and calls him. Leon looks and sees his father. He is shocked. There is a woman beside him, and our girl looks well. She is surprised to see her mother. So the mission target her parents were referring to is Leon's father. She feels she is so screwed. She recalls how her father was punishing her brother because he associated with the noble whom he terms as filthy pigs. He had told him that he should be focused on leading the revolution. He warned him not to be with that girl again. Our girl is scared that she will be punished just like her brother. Leon golds her and tells her not to be scared, that the man is his father so she doesn't have to worry. Immediately, she throws the dolphin on him and pushes him away. She calls him a filthy pig. He is shocked. She pushes him again and tells him not to touch her. She runs away quickly from him. He looks on, not understanding what just happened. His father tells him to go back to the villa, and he shouldn't let his mother know that he saw him there. The father drives off. He looks at the woman beside his father. At the villa, his mother is quarreling him for what he did earlier. She tells him that he has been nothing but trouble since the day he was born, and now he is trying to ruin her. She continues asking him where he went to, that she had an important meeting today. She asks him if he even listens when an adult talks to him. She punishes him, saying that he is grounded for a week. As Leon's mother is talking, he is barely listening. He looks at his hand and reminisces on the abuse. Filthy pig. Outside the door, he sits on the floor wondering what he did wrong. Oh, deserve that type of insult. After a while of thinking, he leaves the house and enters the woods. He decides to go and see Daisy. He needs to ask her what he did wrong. If it was something he did, he is ready to apologize. Otherwise, he'd demand an apology from her. He gets to a spot and sees a car headlamp on the floor. He walks a few steps and sees a tire. He wonders if there was an accident. He sees his father's car ahead. He wonders why it smells like blood. He goes closer and sees his father bleeding from inside. He seems dead. Leon is shocked. He calls out to his father. The next day, a train can be seen driving off. On the train, our girl is seen with her family. They are heading out of the vacation. The mission has been accomplished. Our girl is sitting away from her family, still thinking about what happened the previous day. She remembers calling Leon a filthy pig. She is sad. He called her pretty, but she ended up calling him such an awful name. Meanwhile, Grace's brother is with their parents. He is regretting what he did. He tells the father that he didn't intend to go that far, that he wasn't trying to kill him. His father tells him to keep his voice down. He doesn't want someone to hear them. The young man is still regretting it. He blames it on Winston, saying her ran his mouth too much. Flashback to when they were interrogating Winston. They had taken him to a room, and our girl's father had asked him where he is hiding the comrades of the revolution. Dave hits him, urging him to speak. The weak Winston with injuries all over his body looks tiredly at the man and tells him that they are all dead, that him and his pathetic little revolutionaries, along with his worthless son. This statement triggers Dave and he picks the nearest hammer and hits Winston's face. This blow kills him. After they discover that he is dead, they quickly takes him back to the woods, but his body in the car and pushes it down a slope so that it would look like an accident. Our girl watches as everything unfolded. She tries to hold her mother, but her mother brushes her hands off, telling her that it was an accident. She looks at Leon's father as the car crashes. She is scared. Her mother holds her and tells her not to be afraid, that it is a choice they had to make, that everything they do is for the sake of the new world. Back to their vacation house. Dave tells the father that they could have taken care of Leon too. He saw their mother. Our girl can hear this. She doesn't want it to happen. Leon is a good boy. She doesn't want them to kill him. Our girl's mother comments that it doesn't matter, that it was dark, so he probably didn't see her face clearly. And even if he did, he is just a kid. Her father replies that even if Leon recognizes them, it is too late to turn back now, adding that he has already blown the budget by booking a second-class cabin just to make the escape look convincing. Dave comments that he feels awful. His mother tells him that it is already over, that regrets are not going to change anything, so the right thing is to focus on what is to come in the future. Later that evening, our girl is seen on the bed. She is still sad and cannot sleep. Her mother comes to her side, calls her, and offers her snack. She tells her that she barely ate earlier, that even if she is not hungry, she should at least eat the snack. Her looks at her mother and asks her if she has to kill that boy with her own hands when she grows up. Her mother is surprised to hear such a question. She hugs our girl tightly. They both lie on the bed as her mother cuddles her. She still cannot sleep. She observes that her mother smells nice. She gave her a chocolate today and even hugged her. She feels maybe her mother doesn't hate her after all. She is happy. At that moment, her mother tells her that back then, she would have just sent her to an orphanage, that she should have sent her away. Our girl is sad. Deep down, she has always known. She recalls some moments ago her parents were arguing over her in the other cabin. Her mother had suggested sending her to the orphanage, but her father refused. Now he wants he to be sent there, saying she is useless. Her mother replies that it is too late for that. Her father still maintains that she should be sent away with immediate effect. She is sad. Her parents don't love her. She wonders if it is because she begged them not to kill Leon. Is it because she is a failure as a revolutionary, unable to even kill an enemy? She wonders if that is why they want to get rid of her. The next morning, Grace is still sleeping. Her mother comes to touch her forehead, urging her to wake up. She is asking what happened back there. In her subconscious, she is thinking about Leon. She has decided that she will kill him. She doesn't want her parents to abandon her. Few days later, Winston was buried close to the villa. Leon walks around sadly as he passes the tree he met Daisy. He notices that someone was there. He turns and sees her. He runs to her to attack, accusing her of killing his father. She replies that she didn't do that. He tells her that she is lying, that she is the one, asking her why she did that to him. He goes on telling her that he liked her. She begins to run away, screaming that she didn't, that it isn't her fault. She gets home and cries. She sees a newspaper that talks about the funeral of Leon's father. It read, "With the entire nation in mourning, the funeral of Major Richard Winston was held." The execution of key rebels also coincided with the funeral. Following the honorable death of the male lead's father, he vowed to eradicate the rebels. She tears the paper in anger. She feels the adults were right. Those filthy pigs of the monarchy will kill her family. She feels his father deserved to die. He was a noble. That means Leon is bad too, a filthy monarchy pig. This is one of the reasons she came to the mansion years later to serve as a maid. She comes to meet and greets him, telling him that she is the new maid, introducing herself as Sally Bristol, that she will be assigned to the annex for the time being. The male lead is sitting down. He looks at her. He is excited. He comments that with another servant, he can use the torture chamber more freely. She no longer needed to lie to herself. Hating the boy who had turned into the bad person her repeated mantras spoke of was easy. Just like his girl counterpart, being fueled by hatred of his own, the boy also rose. On the day he faced his first heartbreak from his first love, he also lost his father, his only ally, in the most horrific way. On the funeral day, her mother had complained on how he wore his tie, telling him that he needs to carry himself properly. She asks him if he knows how many eyes are watching them. People asks if it wasn't the male lead that discovered him. They asks whether he talked about what he saw. Another comments that he heard Winston was enchanted by a woman. Leon could hear that. He remembers seeing a woman beside his father, so she is the one who killed his father. Anger rises, and he decides to kill that woman. He wants to make her pay for what she did. The next morning, goes to the tree and kills a bird. He sits there with blood on his hands, deep in thoughts. He wonders if this is how his father felt when he died. His mother is discussing his date inside. She tells the man that it's a bit too early, but there is no other choice. He tells the man to send off his application to the military academy, with the eldest son being like this. Years later, Leon returns to the mansion after graduating from the military academy. People stand outside to welcome him. They are talking about him. He graduated at the top of the military academy. They wonder how many people he have killed. Others answer that they won't be able to count, that he was very ruthless from childhood. That's why they call him vampire. No one knows. No one would have even imagined that the untouchable and feared vampire Captain Winston of Campton was tormented by nightmares every night. In those suffocating dreams, a demon always appeared, a demon that reeked of blood and have suffocating eyes that gleamed with contempt. If you're eager for the next chapter, drop a comment expressing your interest in a part 4. Don't forget to subscribe and ensure to hit the notification bell to stay updated. Until next time.